Of all the Chicago Bulls younger players, who has the most potential? Let's talk about that, people. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports all back at it with another video talking. So I'm here to talk about the Chicago Bulls. So if you're a Bulls fan, hit that subscribe button down below, people. It helps me out a lot when you do so. When you support the channel, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. All right, so fun topic here for you guys. Who do you believe out of the Bulls young core, as we are headed finally towards a rebuild, has the most upside, the biggest potential, right? So I've got the guys that I believe fall into this category, and then I'm going to give you the guy I believe, or potentially guys that I believe have the most potential, most upside. And I'll kind of rank them as well. So with that being said, who falls into this list? I basically have everybody on the Bulls roster that's pretty much under 25. Really in the NBA, you have late bloomers for sure, but once you're past 25, man, it's kind of hard to change that. You really are who you are. And then, later on into your late 20s and then early 30s, it is pretty much what it is. So who's on this list? Here we go. We got Josh Giddey, obviously the newest Chicago Bull, acquired from the OKC Thunder, just 21 years old, and it also included their draft selection where they were drafted. He was the 6th overall pick. As we know, the higher you tend to be drafted, the more upside typically those guys have. Not to say late round guys can't be stars, obviously, see Nikola Jokic, but it's rare. The next one on the list, Kobe White, obviously broke out last year, should have won most improved player, but I digress. 24 years old, and he was the 7th overall pick. All right, next up we have Ayo Dosunmu, 24 years old as well, and he was a 2nd round pick all the way at number 38. After that, we got Patrick Williams at 22 years old. I can't believe he's still only 22. And he was the 4th overall pick, famously in that one draft. Then we have Matas Buzelis, who is 19 years old, the Chicago Bulls' recent draftee in this past draft. He was the 11th overall pick. And then finally, last two, Julian Phillips, who is 20 years old. He was the 2nd round pick, number 35. And Dalen Terry was 22 years old. He was the 18th pick. Now, this is in no particular order. I'm going to put it in the order I believe it should be in terms of who I have it. But these are all of the candidates, I believe, on the roster that we could talk about. So right off the bat, let's talk about who can we eliminate. Okay, who can we eliminate in terms of, yeah, he's a nice player, but he's nothing more than a role player. He's not going to turn out to be anything special. And I'm going to go ahead and say Julian Phillips is number 1 for me on that list. Look, I like the kid. I think he can be solid. He's got the potential to be a solid 3-and-D guy. He's got skill sets that can certainly be developed here. But when you're talking about a 2nd round pick, again, we're not saying 2nd round picks can't pan out and become stars and superstars, but it's very rare. And I just don't believe Julian Phillips is going to be that guy. I think he's just going to be a bench player in this league. So to me, he is off the list. All right, next up, we could take a look at a guy like Dalen Terry. Dalen Terry, to me, the biggest problem with him is I just don't know what type of player he is. I don't know if he's a guard, if he's a forward, if he's a slasher, if he's a shooter. Like, he kind of just, does it all, but isn't really strong at one particular thing. And that's what I want Dalen Terry to work on, is like develop some skills where hey, I'm a lead at that, or I'm really good at that, because really, we don't know. Dalen's all over the place. His IQ's not that great on the court. We've seen he certainly has, again, the tools, but we just haven't seen him put it together. So that's the thing with him. He was the 18th overall pick, so being a 1st round pick, you certainly have upside, and he's still only 22. But I just feel like, to me, Dalen Terry, when I look at him, I just see a role player. I don't see more than that. So I hope he proves me wrong. I hope all these guys prove me wrong, but I'm just being objective here. So Dalen Terry, to me, is off the list. So now we've got Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Patrick Williams, and Matas Buzelis. Next on this list, I'm going to eliminate Ayo Dosunmu. I love Ayo. I really, really do. He was a 2nd round pick, born and raised in Chicago, went to U of I. Shout out to the Fighting Illini. But with Ayo, he's 24, and he's a smaller guard-ish. He's not even a true point guard. He's like a swing guard. And the thing with Io is that I just don't see the upside more so than what we see here. I think he's got a very good sixth man slash borderline starter level player in this league. And I think he's very solid. I think he's a rotation player for sure. All right. And higher than those other guys that I mentioned. And he's actually carved out a very nice spot for himself in this league with his play, man. Like, shout out to Io. He's developed into a solid three-point shooter, slasher. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's just really honed in on his skill set. But when we're talking upside, when we're talking, hey, how much better can you get? I just don't know if Io can get much better than this. He can certainly get a little bit better, but I just don't think that there's way more room left to improve. So to me, he's a sixth man slash borderline starter type of player. That is Io DeSumo. All right. So next up, or the remaining players we have left is Josh Giddey, Kobe White, Patrick Williams, and Matas Buzelis. So from these four, I'm going to go ahead and say, look, just because these are the four guys left doesn't mean that I think they're the better players right now. Like, look, I think Io DeSumo has played better than Patrick Williams, for instance. But Patrick Williams, let's talk about him. He's got more upside just because of his size and the type of player that the NBA looks for in the modern day game. He is a prototypical 3-and-D wing. So to me, between Patrick Williams and Josh Giddey, those are the two guys I was looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and say I think that, Patrick Williams has more upside than Josh Giddey. And mainly due to the fact that shooting is a precedent in today's league. You need to be able to shoot the basketball, and it's a low sample size, but Patrick Williams has shown you who can be that shooter, that 3-and-D guy. Now, as far as the potential, don't talk to me about Kawhi Leonard. Those potential comps that came out when he was drafted, which, again, he was a ridiculously high pick, a 4th overall pick. He could have really set us up for the future, man, if he developed properly. He just didn't. But what else can Patrick Williams be? We just extended him 5 years, $90 million. Like, can you be an impact player? Can you be a franchise player in this league? I don't think he's a franchise player. I think you're talking about a starter, and that's pretty much it, a role player starter. Jaden McDaniels comes to mind, very similar numbers. And look, P. Will is 22 years old. He's going to get more shots up and whatnot, but do I see him turning into anything special? No. If you're talking about all-star level, think of a guy like maybe a Paul Millsap. Certainly Millsap more of a post-up player than Patrick Williams is, but I'm just talking about in terms of like the caliber of player. I just don't think Patrick Williams is an all-star level player. I don't think he's going to develop into that. And so to me, he has more upside, but I just don't think he'll develop into the franchise player that we want her to be. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I really, really do. But it's just, I feel like the motor with Patrick Williams is one of the biggest issues. I really, really hope that motor picks up and, he's aggressive. He starts to take more shots and his game gets to a new level because he's got the skill set. He's got the tools to be this big wing in this league. And, I hope that's the case. But, to me, that's kind of where I'm at. So here's what I'm going to do here. Between P. Will and Giddey, I will still say Patrick Williams has a higher upside than Josh Giddey. So Josh Giddey, let's go to him here real quick. With Josh Giddey, my biggest problem with him is the shooting. Unless he turns into a good shooter here, we have a problem. Because he can certainly be this big point guard that can get you triple doubles and whatnot. And, think of oversized Rajon Rondo, right? Rondo couldn't really shoot well, but he could rebound, he could defend, he could pass. But you got to be able to shoot in this league. And look, Josh Giddey, to me, he's got potentially still only 21 years old, 6th overall pick a few years ago. Like, he's got upside. He's put up numbers in this league. But you have to be able to shoot. And so that, to me, is kind of what downgrades him from Patrick Williams. I don't think he's still a franchise player or can develop into that, but just wanted to mention that. So finally, we have Kobe White and Matas Buzelis. And I'm going to go ahead and say that I have Kobe White number 2 and Buzelis number 1. And here's why. Kobe White, to me, 7th overall pick, obviously a few years ago when we got him, broke out last year, 24 years old. Like, Kobe White has really, really developed into an absolute stud. But can he ever be the best player on a championship team? I don't believe so. I just don't. So I know he's listed at like 6'4", 6'5", but I feel like he plays a little bit smaller. And it's just hard for me to see a guy like Kobe White be the type of prototypical franchise player that you look for in today's NBA, right? Like we've seen guys that are smaller do it, like Jalen Brunson comes to mind, but it's hard for me to go there. And again, Kobe White's 24. You know, how much better is he going to get? He is in his prime, certainly. And I think Kobe can turn into a Gilbert Arenas type of player, like that, you know, scoring point guard, two guard, if you will. But was Gilbert ever the best player on the championship team? No, he wasn't. So that's kind of where I'm at. So with Buzelis, the guy we just drafted, I'm all over this kid in the sense of he's got the tools. He can put the ball on the floor. He can defend a little bit. He is the prototypical wing built NBA player you want to build around. Like, why can't he be a Jason Tatum for the Chicago Bulls? That's why Patrick Williams disappointing is so annoying, because he could have been with, if Buzelis develops like how I think it should be, it could be like the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. You got two big scoring wings that can kind of put the ball on the floor, create their own shot, do it all, and defend. Like, that would have been fantastic. But yeah, that's what I see with Buzelis, man. 11th overall pick, just 19 years old, all the tools in the world. And the main difference from him and Patrick Williams, he's got the motor. He's got the motor. That's what I love about this kid. Go listen to his interviews. Like, I know you don't want to just completely take away from that, but I just love the fact that this kid wants to be great, and I believe he will be. I think Matas Buzelis has the highest ceiling. I'm not here to tell you right here, right now, that he is, you know, Wemby, or he is like these generational players like that you can certainly say like Cooper Flag, right? Teams are going to tank for him, like Paolo. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be as good as that, but from the core that we have, he's going to be the best player. I'm going to go ahead and say it right here, right now. I think Matas Buzelis will be the best player. I think he'll be the player that the Bulls look to build around as of right now, unless, of course, we get a Cooper Flag-ish type of player. So let's hope that happens. You know, capture the flag next year, tank for flag, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, people. It goes Matas Buzelis to me, then Kobe White, then Patrick Williams, and then Josh Giddey is kind of the top four. And then we could talk about those lesser named guys after that. So let me know what you guys think. Agree, disagree. Highest potential on the Chicago Bulls. Who do you think it is? Leave a comment down below as always. Thanks.